Let's get some more analysis and bring in Peter Zalmayev from the Eurasia Democracy Initiative. Peter, always a pleasure to have you on the programme, and I hope you're keeping well and everyone around you where you are, because I know you're in some danger where you are, obviously. We heard Sergei Kyslytsya speaking there at the UN. Do you feel that there's anything that could be said at the UN that will help your situation?
Not necessarily at the UN. The UN obviously remains an important forum to air one's grievances and to bring home the message. You know, after one vote after another, the General Assembly has condemned Russia by large majorities. It has, accentuated once again how isolated Russia is on the international stage, even considering that India and China have been reluctant kind of allies, but not really. Everyone understands it's a war of subjugation, a war of conquest, and I think that our ambassador's comparison with the Nazi Germany is no longer inappropriate. So no hope there, because obviously Russia blocks any sort of decision-making at the Security Council because it holds veto power. But once again, a very important statement. The decisions will be made in the next few days. I hope this is when NATO countries are meeting in Brussels, and countries of the so-called Ukraine Defense Council group.
Peter,
Ramstein, which includes...
Sorry for cutting across you there.
Yes.
President Macron of France has says that these Russian strikes this Monday, which have proved fatal across 8 cities in Ukraine, profoundly changed the nature of the war in Ukraine. That's what Macron has said. Do you agree with that?
No, it's a brutal tactic that we have seen throughout the war. And if Vladimir Putin has not used it consistently every, let's say, week, it's because he has to be judicious about using the stockpile of precision missiles. He is, by all accounts, running out of them. That's why we're seeing that this shelling is indiscriminate, because he has to more and more rely on imprecise, old-school Soviet-era weaponry. But if you mean by a new kind of escalation that Vladimir Putin has changed philosophically about the way he's waging war and what his aims are, no, his aim remains the same, and that is disappearance of Ukraine from the map of the earth as an independent country. For as long as Ukraine remains a Western-leaning, liberal democratic state, Putin considers it an existential threat to the totalitarian Russia.
And what you're saying there goes back to what we just heard the Ukraine ambassador to the UN saying, Sergei Kyslytsya, about Russia's ambitions. Peter, can I ask about the military aid pledges from France, from Germany, the call from Vladimir Zelensky for more help with air defenses? How essential is this right now?
They are not coming too soon. They should have come yesterday. Macron has announced an additional $100 million in military aid. Macron, the Bundeswehr, announced just today, just as the rockets were falling on Ukrainian cities, the arrival of the first air defense system. There are NASAM systems manufactured, among others, by Norway, which Biden has promised again. Some of them, it will take years to be delivered to Ukraine. So we cannot afford to wait that long. We need as many of these systems as possible and as sophisticated as possible. Let me just say very quickly, ATACMS. ATACMS, those are 300-kilometer HIMARS rockets that can strike deep within Russia's territory. For as long as Russians do not feel the brunt of this war, and they're only striking at targets in Ukraine, the calculus is not going to change. Ukraine has to be enabled to respond proportionally.
NATO's condemned the attacks, predictably, the attacks this Monday. But what would you like NATO to actually do? What practically would you want NATO to do?
Well, closing off this airspace, as Ukrainians have called for, is probably not very feasible. It's a large country. So like what we said, it's very important to give Ukraine's long-range weapons. And also it has to consider and air defense systems. It has to consider giving Ukraine fighter jets, something that's been discussed the entirety of this war. Hasn't really happened yet. And tanks, including Leopard tanks manufactured by Germany. There should be nothing holding Germans back from finally delivering on this particular weapon.
Peter Zalmayev, we need to leave it there. There's so much more to discuss, of course, but thank you, as ever, for giving us your take on the situation and your analysis from within Ukraine's borders. We always appreciate it. Peter Zalmayev of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative. Thank you, sir. We'll watch you, of course, for all developments on the situation within Ukraine's borders, and we'll bring that to you as it happens. We're also keeping an eye on the UN General Assembly, where, of course, matters Ukraine are being discussed. We'll get you more from there as it happens too.